Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Young and the Restless channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for more daily drama updates and spoilers. Your support truly means a lot and helps our channel grow every day. Now, let's jump straight into today's exciting update. The emotional aftermath of Jack Abbott's brutal stabbing continued to ripple through Genoa City as the new day dawned. But instead of bringing relief, it only deepened the fear surrounding his fate. Inside the hospital, doctors fought desperately to stabilize him after the terrifying moment when his heart had already stopped once, forcing emergency responders to shock him back to life. Every passing minute felt like an eternity for Diane Jenkins and Kyle Abbott, who could do nothing but wait while surgeons battled to save the man who held their family together. The haunting image of Jack lying in a pool of blood refused to leave Diane's mind, and the overwhelming guilt of not arriving sooner threatened to consume her. Yet as heartbreaking as Jack's condition was, an even darker danger continued to unfold outside the operating room, because Patty Williams had absolutely no intention of letting the truth come to light. Despite being the one who plunged the knife into Jack, Patty somehow managed to twist the narrative in ways only she could, manipulating everyone around her with frightening confidence. She appeared determined to convince investigators that Diane was somehow responsible, refusing to let reality interfere with the fantasy she had created inside her own mind. Patty's warped version of events became even more dangerous because she was willing to accuse anyone who challenged her. She insisted that Diane had attacked both her and Jack, claiming that jealousy and rage had driven Diane into violence after Jack supposedly chose Patty instead. Although Diane and Kyle had arrived together and discovered Jack bleeding on the floor, Patty refused to acknowledge those facts, suggesting instead that Kyle was simply protecting his stepmother with a carefully crafted lie. Her ability to twist even the simplest evidence into something sinister reminded everyone just how unpredictable and manipulative she could be. There was growing concern that she might even drag Dr. Lawrence Markham into her web of deception, using whatever lies she believed would strengthen her case. Every new accusation forced investigators to spend valuable time sorting through fiction instead of focusing on justice, leaving Diane trapped beneath a cloud of suspicion she never deserved. As Jack fought for his life, the battle to protect his reputation and Diane's freedom became almost as urgent as the medical emergency itself. While chaos consumed the Abbott family, another emotional storm was quietly unfolding at the Newman ranch. Victor Newman made an unexpected decision regarding Nikki Newman's recovery, choosing to take complete control of her medical care after her release from the hospital. Rather than allowing Nikki to return to the familiar comfort she expected, Victor arranged for her to come back to the ranch, transforming the estate into a place where she could continue her recovery under constant supervision. Victoria Newman and Nick Newman gently escorted their mother through the front door, offering comfort with every careful step as Nikki struggled to adapt to a world she could no longer see. There remained an unsettling question hanging over the entire situation. Had Nikki willingly agreed to return to the ranch? Or had she believed her children were taking her somewhere entirely different? Considering Victor had previously forced her out of their home while allowing Matt Clark to remain under his roof, Nikki had every reason to believe she would be returning to the Genoa City Athletic Club instead. The emotional wound left by Victor's earlier decision had never truly healed, making this unexpected homecoming feel as uncertain as it was emotional. Even surrounded by family, Nikki's future remained frighteningly unclear. As the middle of the week arrived, Jack's physical battle slowly transformed into a psychological one. Although he had survived the surgery, Patty somehow found herself holding disturbing leverage over him, forcing him into an impossible position. Whatever secret or threat Patty possessed seemed powerful enough to make Jack hesitate before telling authorities exactly who had stabbed him. The very thought that the victim might remain silent out of fear added another disturbing layer to an already heartbreaking situation. Diane desperately needed Jack's testimony to clear her name once and for all. Yet circumstances seemed determined to keep the truth buried beneath Patty's manipulations. Every conversation became a tense game of uncertainty, with everyone wondering whether Jack would finally expose his attacker or continue protecting whatever Patty was using against him. The emotional burden resting on his shoulders became nearly as painful as the physical injuries that still threatened his recovery. Across town, another complicated family relationship moved into the spotlight, as Billy Abbott found himself questioning his mother's sudden change of heart. Jill Abbott arrived at the home Billy shared with Sally Spectra, stepping inside and quietly taking in the warmth and personality Sally had poured into decorating their home. It was clear that Jill had not spent much time there before, making the visit feel strangely unfamiliar despite the family connection. She spoke about wanting to repair the damage between herself and Billy, expressing a desire to become closer after months of emotional distance and unanswered calls. But Billy found it difficult to accept her words without hesitation. Too much pain had accumulated over the years for him to simply believe everything would suddenly be different. His skepticism wasn't rooted in bitterness alone. It came from repeated disappointments that had taught him to question whether Jill's promises would truly last this time. Meanwhile, another legal and emotional dilemma was beginning to take shape. Michael Baldwin found himself pleading with Christine Williams Ramalotti, hoping to prevent an already tragic situation from becoming even worse. Patty's outrageous accusations against Diane threatened to create serious legal consequences if they were taken seriously. Christine, however, knew Patty better than most people ever could. Having once been connected to Patty through family, Christine understood firsthand just how unstable and dangerous Patty's thinking could become whenever obsession took control. Michael desperately hoped Christine would remember that history before making any decisions that could destroy Diane's life. Charging Diane based solely on Patty's accusations would not simply be unfair, it would be a complete miscarriage of justice. As emotions ran high throughout Genoa City, cooler heads would be desperately needed to prevent another innocent person from becoming Patty's latest victim. By Thursday, attention shifted toward another fractured family relationship that desperately needed healing. Jill remained determined to repair the emotional distance separating her from Billy, refusing to abandon her efforts despite his obvious reluctance. Every conversation between mother and son carried years of unresolved disappointment beneath the surface, making each attempt at reconciliation feel fragile and uncertain. Jill wanted Billy to believe that her intentions were genuine, that she truly wanted them to become a stronger family once again. Whether Billy could lower the emotional walls he had spent years building remained another question entirely. Still, beneath all the skepticism, there was the smallest hint that both of them longed for the same thing, a chance to finally stop reliving the past and begin creating better memories together. It was an emotional crossroads that could ultimately reshape not only their relationship, but the future of the entire Abbott family. At the same time, romance slowly began blooming once more between Lily Winters and Kane Ashby. After everything they had endured together, there was a softness returning to their interactions that neither of them seemed eager to deny. During a conversation with Holden Novak, the subject shifted toward his uncertain future, and Holden openly admitted that he had no idea what direction his life would take next. Kane immediately recognized an opportunity, appearing ready to offer Holden a position at Chancellor. Lily seemed genuinely pleased by the possibility, seeing it as a chance to strengthen both Holden's future and Kane's growing leadership. The conversation flowed naturally into lighter, more intimate moments between Lily and Kane, reminding everyone that love sometimes finds its way back after even the longest separation. Their smiles carried hope, their closeness felt effortless, and the chemistry between them hinted that their rekindled romance was only beginning. As Friday approached, Nikki's recovery became even more emotionally difficult. Adjusting to life without her eyesight proved heartbreaking, and every ordinary task became a painful reminder that her world had changed overnight. Although Victor remained close by, attempting to provide support, there was no easy solution for the uncertainty Nikki faced every single day. Her determination remained remarkable, but so did her frustration, as she struggled to accept a future she never imagined living. At the same time, Ashley Abbott returned home from Paris after learning of Jack's horrifying attack. The shocking news had drawn her back to Genoa City, where concern for her brother overshadowed everything else. The Abbott family gathered once again, united not by celebration, but by fear, grief, and the desperate hope that Jack would continue recovering after surviving one of the darkest chapters of his life. Adding even more intrigue to an already emotional week, Victor stunned everyone with a major announcement that immediately sent waves of speculation throughout Genoa City. No one knew exactly what Victor intended, or whether his latest decision would finally help repair the damage surrounding his family, or create entirely new conflicts. Those who knew Victor best understood that his announcements rarely arrived without consequences, leaving friends and enemies alike waiting anxiously to discover what came next. At the same time, his relationship with Nikki remained under tremendous strain, especially with her health crisis continuing to test the foundation of their marriage. Victor had shown genuine regret while Nikki underwent surgery, but whether remorse alone could heal years of emotional wounds remained uncertain. And with Jack's attack eventually leading back to Patty, a woman Victor himself had helped unleash upon the Abbott family, the consequences of his choices seemed destined to haunt him long after the headlines faded. The stage was now set for even greater heartbreak, deeper romance, shocking betrayals, and life-changing decisions as the following week promised to push every family in Genoa City to their emotional breaking point. As the week of July 13th arrived, the emotional landscape of Genoa City shifted once again, carrying every family deeper into uncertainty, while old wounds and unresolved feelings resurfaced with incredible force. Jack Abbott had survived the unthinkable, but survival was only the beginning of an entirely new battle. His body was slowly healing, yet the emotional scars left behind by Patty Williams' obsession proved far more difficult to overcome. Every time Diane Jenkins looked at her husband, she was reminded of the horrifying sight of him lying lifeless on the mansion floor, a memory that continued to haunt her even as doctors expressed cautious optimism about his recovery. The Abbott family tried to focus on hope, but Patty refused to allow them even a moment of peace. Despite being under investigation, she remained consumed by the fantasy she had built around Jack, and her relentless interference threatened to destroy his marriage long after the knife attack itself. Diane found herself living through a nightmare that simply refused to end. Clearing her name became nearly impossible, while Patty continued spreading outrageous accusations and manipulating every opportunity to paint Diane as the true villain. Instead of feeling safe now that Jack had survived surgery, Diane constantly feared that another lie could suddenly change the course of the investigation. The possibility that Christine Williams Romalotti might be forced to consider Patty's fabricated claims created a cloud of anxiety hanging over every conversation. Diane knew the truth, Kyle knew the truth, and Jack himself knew exactly who had attacked him. Yet truth alone did not guarantee justice when someone as dangerously unstable as Patty was determined to rewrite reality. Every passing day became another exhausting fight to protect both her freedom and the life she had rebuilt with Jack. Even as Jack slowly regained his strength, Patty's obsession continued poisoning every attempt the couple made to move forward. Elsewhere, Nikki Newman struggled through the painful reality of her new normal. Her eyesight had still not returned, forcing her to rely on those around her for even the smallest daily routines. For a woman who had always carried herself with elegance, confidence, and independence, the loss of her vision felt devastating. Every unfamiliar sound inside the ranch reminded her how dramatically her world had changed. And although Victor Newman remained by her side, his support could not erase the fear and frustration consuming her heart. Victor genuinely appeared determined to help her through the crisis, doing everything within his power to make the ranch a place where she could recover in comfort. Yet, there was an uncomfortable feeling that his efforts might have come far too late. Once Nikki learned the full truth about Patty's violent attack on Jack, and especially the fact that Victor's own decisions had allowed Patty back into the Abbotts' lives, the fragile progress they had made together could easily crumble all over again. Victor himself faced growing consequences for choices that had seemed manageable only days before. His regrets became increasingly difficult to hide as more people connected Patty's rampage directly to the chain of events he had set into motion. Although he undoubtedly wanted to protect Nikki and repair their strained relationship, intentions alone could not erase the damage that had already been done. Family members continued reacting to his stunning announcement, and the ripple effects spread throughout Genoa City as everyone wondered what Victor's next move would be. Some hoped his recent brush with losing Nikki had finally humbled him enough to become a better husband and father. Others remained deeply skeptical, believing the powerful Newman patriarch would eventually fall back into the controlling behavior that had defined him for years. Regardless of which future awaited him, Victor stood at one of the most significant crossroads of his life, where every decision carried consequences far beyond himself. While one romance struggled beneath the weight of tragedy, another quietly blossomed with renewed hope. Lily Winters gradually lowered the emotional walls she had built around her heart, allowing herself to believe that Kane Ashby truly deserved another chance. Their conversations became softer, their smiles lingered longer, and the distance that had once separated them slowly disappeared beneath genuine affection. The chemistry between them grew impossible to ignore, leading many to believe their renewed connection would soon become something far more intimate. Months of misunderstandings and emotional separation seemed to melt away every time they found themselves alone together. Their growing closeness suggested that love had survived every obstacle placed in its path. As July continued, romance promised to become one of the brightest stories unfolding in Genoa City, offering a welcome contrast to the heartbreak surrounding so many other families. Kane's renewed optimism extended beyond his relationship with Lily. His interest in helping Holden Novak find a future at Chancellor reflected his growing confidence both professionally and personally. Holden had openly admitted he had no clear direction, leaving Kane eager to offer him an opportunity that could change his life. Lily appeared fully supportive of the idea, seeing Holden's potential and appreciating Kane's willingness to invest in people who needed a second chance. Together, they seemed to be building not only a stronger relationship, but also a stronger future for those around them. Their partnership felt balanced once again, filled with mutual respect and shared dreams instead of lingering resentment. Everything pointed toward Lily and Kane officially becoming a couple once more, with even more passion and romance waiting just around the corner. Meanwhile, another complicated love triangle continued generating tension that showed no signs of fading. Audra Charles remained relentless whenever she crossed paths with Sienna Bacall, never missing an opportunity to challenge her rival or remind her that Noah Newman's attention had not completely drifted away. Sienna's jealousy became increasingly obvious, especially as Audra continued pushing every emotional button she could find. Their encounters were filled with sharp remarks, simmering resentment, and barely concealed hostility, leaving Noah caught directly between two determined women. Although he repeatedly tried calming the situation, he never completely shut Audra out of his life. That hesitation raised difficult questions about his true feelings, leaving Sienna wondering whether her relationship was standing on solid ground or quietly beginning to unravel. With every passing confrontation, it became harder to ignore the possibility that Noah's indecision might eventually cost him everything. Elsewhere, another surprising relationship continued evolving in ways few people expected. Phyllis Summers and Matt Clark found themselves growing closer despite the controversy surrounding him. What had initially begun as guarded conversations gradually developed into something far more personal, creating a connection that shocked nearly everyone who knew them. Their growing attraction was destined to create even more turmoil when Nick Newman unexpectedly walked in on them during an intimate moment. Such a discovery threatened to push Nick dangerously close to an emotional breaking point. Between Nikki's ongoing medical crisis, the devastating uncertainties surrounding her eyesight, and the uncomfortable reality of seeing Phyllis move closer to Matt, the emotional pressure surrounding Nick continued building with alarming intensity. There was growing concern that the overwhelming stress could cause him to relapse, making an already heartbreaking situation even more tragic. Ashley Abbott's return from Paris provided the Abbott family with comfort during one of the darkest periods they had ever faced. She reunited with those she loved while standing beside Jack throughout his difficult recovery, offering strength at a time when everyone desperately needed it. Yet despite the emotional reunion, Ashley's visit was never intended to be permanent. Her time back in Genoa City would be brief, making every family gathering feel even more meaningful. She cherished every opportunity to reconnect with her loved ones, knowing she would soon have to leave once again. The attack on Jack served as a painful reminder that life could change without warning, encouraging every member of the Abbott family to appreciate the precious moments they still had together. Even temporary reunions carried enormous emotional weight when so much had nearly been lost. Billy Abbott also found himself standing at an important turning point after Jill Abbott's heartfelt visit. Although years of disappointment had made forgiveness difficult, Jill's determination to rebuild their relationship slowly began breaking through Billy's defenses. More importantly, she hoped to strengthen the family's future by encouraging Billy to reconnect with Kane and embrace new opportunities waiting at Chancellor. Billy still wrestled with old emotional scars and lingering doubts about his mother's sincerity. But there were unmistakable signs that he was beginning to think differently. Accepting a position at Chancellor increasingly appeared to be the logical next step, giving him a chance to move forward instead of remaining trapped by past resentments. Holden Novak seemed equally likely to join the company, creating the possibility of an entirely new chapter for both men. If those plans became reality, Jill's efforts to reunite her family might finally begin producing the healing she had been seeking for so long. As these dramatic weeks drew to a close, every storyline pointed toward even greater emotional upheaval, waiting just beyond the horizon. Jack's recovery offered hope, but Patty's obsession ensured the danger was far from over. Nikki's uncertain future continued testing her strength, while Victor struggled to prove that regret could still lead to redemption. Lily and Kane stepped confidently back into love. Billy faced the opportunity to rebuild both his family and career, and Noah found himself trapped in an increasingly complicated emotional triangle. Phyllis and Matt's growing relationship threatened to unleash fresh chaos, while the Abbott and Newman families braced themselves for whatever consequences Victor's latest decisions would bring. With lives hanging in the balance, hearts being tested, and old rivalries burning hotter than ever, Genoa City stood on the edge of another unforgettable chapter, where every choice promised to change lives forever.